Good morning. This is Sheriff Danny H. Rogers of the Guilford County Sheriff's Office in North Carolina. I want to welcome you all back to another episode with Coffee with the Sheriff. Today, our special guest is Dr. one and only Ellison, Dr. Ellison. And she is a doctor here with the Guilford County Sheriff's Office. She helps us through our detention or resident halls, I like to call them. They're known as detention centers, but I call them resident halls, from High Point to Greensboro. And she also helped talk with those that are employed here, our team members that are detention officers, that are admin, as well as the sworn division. So good morning, Dr. Ellison.
Good morning, Sheriff.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing well. I do apologize. I'm so used to, I want to make sure I called you correctly. I didn't want to call you by your first name. You know, and before I realized I didn't say your first name. Dr. Lakisha Ellison.
Yes.
Okay, so I try to make sure I do things right. But anyway, welcome to the show this morning, and I thank you for all that you have done, doing, and will do. You know, I put all that in there.
All together.
All together, because you have a very hard task, you know, but you have a great team.
I do.
So some of the things that we've been dealing with in the past 6 months or better, or 8 months. Is that about right? 8 months?
About 8 months.
About 8 months. We've been dealing with the bylaws and policies and procedures of reentry, the reentry program that we end up finding out that from the Department of Adult Corrections.
Yes.
Looks at it different versus what I look at it, or we look at it as an organization. And I'm caught up with the fact, well, how am I supposed to, or how are we supposed to be able to give the men and women help that are coming back from the state facilities or federal facilities, and we can't use the reentry program funds that we been awarded, or grant funding that we've been awarded to help people. So in order to be able to help them, they have to come from those facilities and enter back into the Guilford County Detention Center, and then we can help them. To me, it seems like I'm backing up.
Right, right. So with adult corrections, with the grant, they have 5 tiers, right?
Okay.
And so the number 1 tier are individuals who are getting directly released from their facilities. That's the target population.
Okay.
So we can help them with the funding.
Okay. So the funding leads them when they come back in from the Department of Adult Corrections. How much of the funding can we utilize to help them?
Well, when the grant's written, it's broken out into percentages. So there's some money for child care, there's money for trade school, money for boots and things like that. And then there's a pot of money for housing. Housing is the biggest need. You can pay up to 90 days, but then there's this LRC committee that kind of governs how we run our show. So, I mean, while that's a good thing for accountability, it's a bit of a barrier sometimes. You know, trying to provide leadership to the program, this committee really provides the leadership.
Okay. So, say for instance, housing. I know I've seen some interaction with the housing, and landlords, and I know that it's about business with them. Rent has gone up.
Yeah, significant.
You know, and so when we look at rent running anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000, and you have a person that's been incarcerated, and they coming out and they don't have the job, or they have to go through the process to be hired, they still have to have somewhere to live.
Right.
So.
And then 90 days assistance really isn't a lot. When you don't have your social security card, you don't have your birth certificate, your ID, you have to get all of those things. That's 30 days right there.
So, which is good now, because now it tells me that we need to be able to put that in practice before they start coming home.
That will be helpful.
So will that be something specialty organization can do, or the state should be doing it, or because should we know before the individual is coming back to Guilford County to get their stuff for them? How will that work?
It probably could work with all three, but as of right now, we don't necessarily know who's coming back unless they just have a really awesome first-rate case planner that reaches out and helps prepare for them, or a family member that wants to help their loved one get connected. Most individuals are just kind of dropped off. Literally, sometimes they're dropped off in the middle of downtown at night, terrified, right? And they don't have anything. And they may show up to the reentry council, and we provide assistance that way. One of the first things we do is help them get their documentation and get them in to see a medical provider.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about those that we have local that deal with, that our reentry program serves. Let's talk about them a little bit.
Okay.
Housing, jobs, clothing to get them to the next level here. Where are we standing on that? How are we looking on that?
Our local population's our biggest population. Okay. Without stakeholders and donations, it's very challenging to provide for them. Food isn't purchased with county dollars, clothing isn't purchased with county dollars, toiletry, bus tickets, none of those things are purchased with county dollars. So grants would help us, right? But we have to be able to secure those grants. So that's where we lean heavily on local businesses and citizens.
Okay.
But we're definitely in need of those things, especially men's clothing, shoes, and bus passes. Those are some of our greatest requests that we get literally every day.
Okay. So when we look at the local reentry, those that are utilizing our program, how is it working towards or working out for them when it comes to housing?
So housing is a tricky one. Like you mentioned, the rates are high. The rates are high, and those who offer second chance employment are often fast food restaurants for a lot of our folks. So it's really challenging to afford market-based rent, part-time work, or fast food work. It's also hard to sometimes create buy-in for landlords to encourage them to rent to justice-involved individuals. We're working with like UNCG, the Continuum of Care, which we're now a voting member of the Continuum of Care to end homelessness in Guilford County. You know, we're working with those organizations to educate landlords and try to engage more folks as it relates to the justice-involved population.
You know, ending homeless in Guilford County is a goal for all of us. Unfortunately, we have so many people who does not want to live under a structure type housing or in a building. They prefer the tent living.
Yeah, off the grid.
Oh yes, off the grid. And let's talk a little bit about that as far as jail diversion. How would that fit in with those that need the help but refuse the help? Well, we put it this way. Let me make sure I back up on that. I'll say they need the help.
Okay.
But I can't speak for what another individual may believe that they need or don't need. You know, I'm accustomed to living under shelter. They are accustomed to living in tents. So I have to respect that. So how do we help with that being in place, keeping the respect there,
right,
but still yet giving them the services that they need?
Right. So jail diversion had 144 referrals between last year and up until last week, I think. 44 of those were screened in cases that we actually worked. Not because our criteria is very rigid, but because people actually declined. They declined the service. So when individuals do not want a treatment-driven plan, jail diversion is not the best fit for them, because in jail diversion, we're targeting serious mental illness, substance use disorders, and how it impacts recidivism, right? That's our target. So for those who don't necessarily want that help, we're happy to serve them in reentry.
Okay. So would it be fair or unfair to say that they're really dealing with mental health challenges because they don't want to be up under the structure, housing, or I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, because medication management usually is the number one thing.
Right.
Folks are not taking the medication. They are not interested in taking the medication to manage their symptoms. It's not that they don't want to feel better. It's not that they don't want to do something different. They're just not ready or willing to take that medication. And that is a barrier for a lot of folks. Folks lose housing due to unmanaged mental health symptoms.
I've seen that. And when they're on their medication, and then they're perfect.
Yeah, completely different.
Completely different. And then keeping them to a place where they can keep the medication going, and keeping them in place to help them gain the momentum of a stable life is even better for them. But sometimes they don't get it, and it's frustrating because you really want people to be helped, but sometimes you feel like you're kicking against their own will.
Right.
You know, and they let you know, you're kicking against my will. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. And I'm like, wow. You know.
I can name 10 right now if I needed to. People that my team probably goes to see monthly, the same people. And we're just trying to get them to buy into medication while they're in the facility, or follow up with something once they're released. Not interested right now.
You know, you said something, team. I love team, especially an aggressive and a positive team. You have a team that is made up of full-time. You have a team that is made up of part-time, retiree callbacks, and interns. You have baby boomers. You have Generation Y, Gen Y, Generation X, millenniums, and I'm missing one. I'm missing probably a couple.
Maybe, but it all shows.
Yeah, but it does. And it's amazing on how they collaborate together to help fight the cause or help serve the cause.
Everybody has their strengths.
Yeah. You know, I took a class when I was one of the classes that I took during the master's program. I went through online with Walden University, and very grateful to the resources that helped me get through. And one of the classes that I took was a combination of leadership, baby boomers, generation of this, and millennium this, and everybody had a different view. But the view all came together to work for the common cause or for the common good. And it's amazing because I see that as the sheriff working with people, not just inside the office, but out throughout the community. And I'm like, wow, sometimes I have to sit and listen to the younger generation before I have to go back and listen to the baby boomers. You know, baby boomers, we're getting a little older, and we kind of sit back and say, well, this is the way we did it, and this is the right way. But it's not so true.
Right.
You know, times have changed. But yeah, I like that teamwork that y'all have. And actually your team goes from what, ages 18 to what, 60 something?
Easily.
Yeah, that's good. Mental health, we know, is a large component to today's society. It's more exposed today than it's ever been in mankind. if I may use that. The men and women who serve the men and women that are dealing with the issues, it's important that they also are being taken care of, such as detention officers, such as resident hall officers, as detention officers, administrators who oversee the paperwork, the grants and all that stuff that comes through that needs to be done correctly. You know, we went through a struggle with the grants because things changed. Or better yet, we were taught to do it one way and found out it's not the right way to do things.
Right.
You know? So we had to go back and adjust to that, and you know, win some, lose some.
Right.
But it's better to learn now.
Right.
And I'm very grateful. Not that it didn't hurt, but you know.
Yeah.
But when we have that, and then we have the men and women who work the field. Then we have the detectives who are trying to help solve those cases, and the caseloads are heavy, and you know, and man staff. The man staff is short. We have a lot, you know. So, any suggestions?
So I think we'll be doing a few things in May for Mental Health Awareness Month here at the agency. But one of the things I tell detention officers specifically, because I see them every day, because my office is in a detention center, pay attention to what you're thinking and how you're feeling. If you need a break, ask for a break.
Yes.
Right? That's why I run office hours. My door is always open, even when I'm in a meeting. Because if an officer comes in, I'm ending the meeting or stepping away from it, right? As a priority. I want them to know that it's a priority, nothing too big, nothing too small. Yeah. Coping skills is a big thing I talk to them about, like doing sensory related things. Whether it's aromatherapy or really, really strong ginger candy, ways to cope with all the challenges that come up throughout a whole 12-hour shift. And they're likely there 13 hours probably, getting ready and then preparing to exit. They're probably there 13 hours. And
that's just at work.
Yeah. They ain't got home yet.
They ain't got home. And as a matter of fact, they have already left home to come to work. What were they dealing with? Babies, husbands, wives, grown children, teenagers. No, teenagers know everything.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And then we have to deal. You know, so it's so important that holistically. That we as an organization take that serious and make sure people have the help that they need. Yeah,
we got to reduce the stigma, and I think you do a great job at that by letting people know mental health is real, like acknowledging it. Yeah. Each individual person still has to do their own work around stigma. And I think we're getting there. We just have to keep talking about it. That's why we have brochures and things posted in the detention facilities and in the districts, whether it has 988 on it or other crisis or mindfulness information. I think we just have to keep talking about mental health.
Yes. And as we talk about mental health, we talk about life. You know, I shared a story with you all yesterday. You know, on the command meeting. And for years, I had thought it had only been 3 or 4 years. And then I got a chance to go back and think about it. And the Lord laid it on my heart ever since she was 8 years old. That's a long time. You know? Mentally, I dealt with that. You get what I'm saying? A lot. I tell people, yeah, all of us have things that we deal with. The goal is to make sure that you recognize it and get the proper help and care or talk to the proper people that you need to. You know? And everything is not medicated, everything is not, you know, institutionalized or anything like that. Right. But you just have to have that strong individual or individuals that you can talk to that would be like, you know what, this is what you need to do. You know what, this is what you shouldn't have done.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think what you said is key when we say mental health. we're not necessarily going all the way to serious mental illness, schizophrenia, bipolar. We're talking about anxiety, depression, ADHD, adjustment disorders. Those things could impact anyone at any given time throughout their lifespan.
And it makes a huge difference of what we eat.
It does. Yep, the gut-brain balance is a real thing. It is.
It does. You know, the body is the temple, and it is very has to be very well taken care of. You know, you have to listen to it and follow the body. You know, once again, I want to thank you for so much. I don't know how you do it. I don't, but I'm very grateful. I talk about you and your staff, your team. Before Dr. Sobin retired, I knew Dr. Sobin from way back, and I was able to. I got a chance to learn her from a different perspective, from just being a law enforcement officer to being a clinical psychiatrist. Is that not correct?
Counselor.
Counselor. And I just, you just learn so much. You'd be like, wow, I remember when I was a kid, or we were kids, kids, mid-20s, early 20s. People think, well, sure, I ain't no kid, I'm a grown adult. Well, you little be old enough. You look back at that as you be like, well, I was just a kid then. I want to thank you and your team for the awesome service and some work that you do, the love, the care. People talk about you. They say, oh God, she's great. It's we're God-centered. We are, And I know people say, you should. No. We are God-centered, and He takes care of all of us.
Agreed.
And we must have direction. Man or woman without direction is a lost cause. It's an accident waiting to happen, and we have to have it. And our goal is not to overrule or overbearing anyone, but to help them. Because at the end of the day, our stories will help somebody, because we all have a story.
That's right.
We all have a story. Anything you want to say?
Well, no, Sheriff, but it's my pleasure to be here, and happy to do it.
Okay, well, we thank you. Anything you want to say to the community?
Well, as we celebrate May, Mental Health Awareness Month, remember to take care of yourself, check on your strong friends, and be well.
I believe that is as simple as it can be. Hey, once again, I want to say thank you all so very much for tuning in today with myself and Dr. Lakisha Ellison, who is our Behavior, Health, and Wellness Coordinator for the Guilford County Sheriff's Office. Stakeholders, I'm hoping you get a chance to watch this, that we got a chance to listen, get a chance to think about coming out and seeing what you can do to help us serve this great community. Have a great day. God bless you, and we love you.